Hello, friends. All right, this message is mostly for my foreign friends, people who don't live in the United States but come here regularly or thinking about coming here for whatever reason. And while I could compose something, I think the message that Robert Reich, the economist and professor, sent out yesterday on social media sums it up. And I'm going to read from it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Friends, I'm addressing this post to those of you who live in other lands. As you probably know, we here in the United States are facing the biggest emergency in the history of our democracy, and we need your help. Trump and other members of his regime, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, Mark Rubio, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, and Pam Bondi, are actively undermining our system of government, usurping Congress's power to fund the government, saying they don't care what judges say, arresting peaceful protesters, investigating Trump's enemies, siding with Putin against Ukraine, encouraging bigotry, and sowing widespread fear. All this is fucking true. I'll go back to it. Please know that the Trump regime doesn't represent the majority of Americans. Trump won the presidential election by a razor-thin 1.5% margin, but half of all Americans didn't vote. That's fucked up, but true, including many who voted for Biden in 2020. Polls consistently show most Americans do not support what Trump is doing. How can you help us? Like most bullies, Trump can be constrained only if everyone stands up to his bullying, including you. This is dead on. He is a bully. All bullies fold when you stand up to him. All right, get back to it. Spending by non-Americans in the United States is a significant source of tax revenue and a major export of this nation. There's no reason for you to indirectly support Trump's economy, which is failing fast. Many international travelers concerned about Trump's authoritarianism have already canceled trips to the United States. I suggest you do so too. Last week, Trump threatened a 200% tariff on European wine and alcohol after calling the European Union, quote, one of the most hostile and abusive taxing and tariffing authorities in the world, unquote. Why reward this bellicose rhetoric? Many Europeans are already skipping trips to Disney World and American music festivals. Good on you. Everyone should skip them, including Americans. Travel from China, a frequent target of Trump's contempt, is down 11%. Not enough. Chinese travelers are choosing to vacation in Australia and New Zealand instead of visiting the U.S. national parks. Our dear neighbors north of the border, who have long been the major source of international travel to the United States, are deciding to visit Europe and Mexico instead. Good on them. Go Canada. In response to Trump's repeated desire to make Canada a 51st state, Canada's former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has urged Canadians not to vacation in America. An informal boycott by Canadian travelers has begun. The number of Canadians returning by car from visits to the United States already fell by 23% in February, and air travel by Canadians returning from the United States was down 13% relative to last year, according to the statistics. Overall, it is expected that international travel to the United States will drop at least 5% this year. That's definitely not enough. Make it 50%. 100% would be even better. Although we have loved and profited from your visits, I urge you to join many of your compatriots and, at least for now, decide not to come to the United States. Second, if you're thinking about coming to the United States on a student or even on a H-1B visa, which allows highly skilled foreign citizens to live and work here, you should also reconsider. Perhaps wait a few years until hopefully the Trump regime has ended. Hopefully. It is not entirely safe for you to be here in any event. It is not. Dr. Rasha Alawiya, sorry if I mispronounced that name, which I'm sure I did, 34 years of age, a kidney transplant specialist and professor at Brown's University Medical School, who has been in the United States legally on an H-1B visa, was just deported without explanation, even though a court had blocked her expulsion. Dr. Alawa had traveled last month to Lebanon, her home country, to visit relatives. When she tried to return from that trip to the United States, she was detained by U.S. Customs and immigration officials and put on a flight to Paris, presumably on her way back to Lebanon. Lebanon is not even on a draft list of nations from which the Trump administration is considering banning entry into the United States. Even if there's a shortage in America of skilled workers in your specialty, you could be deported at any time for any and no reason. Likewise, if you're considering coming to America on a student visa, you might reconsider the risk at this time. A Columbia University graduate student was arrested and detained for no reason other than that he peacefully protested Netanyahu's policies in Gaza, which are wrong and murderous. The administration of Brown University is advising foreign students ahead of spring break to consider postponing or delaying personal travel outside of the United States until more information is available to the U.S. Department of State, unquote. It is not just one risk. It's not just the risk. It's also the circumstances. If you care about democracy, this is not the time to come here on a student or H-1B visa because the Trump regime is riding roughshod over the Constitution of the United States, trying to destroy it. On Sunday, the Trump regime deported hundreds of Venezuelan nationals from the United States under the centuries-old Alien Enemies Act, which until now has been used only in times of war, even though a federal judge blocked the decision and ordered planes carrying some of the Venezuelans to turn back to the United States, which they did not. I did a video on this Venezuelan deportation this morning. I'll put the link at the end of this video. On Sunday night, Trump told reporters that the Venezuelans he sent back to Venezuela were, quote, bad people. He didn't send them back to Venezuela. He sent them to El Salvador to basically a brutal concentration camp. It's prison. But no one can take Trump's word that these were bad people. Trump routinely uses the term bad people to refer to those who oppose or criticize him or whom he dislikes. and today you could be the greatest person in the world, and then you say one thing that's not 100% in agreement with him, and then you're a bad person or a terrorist or a left-wing nut communist. All right, I'll go back to Robert here. We'll finish up. Whatever your reason for wanting to come to the United States as a visitor, a student, or an H-1B skilled worker, you might reconsider your plans. I would cancel them. Find somewhere else to go. Deciding not to come would send a signal that you're justifiably worried about your safety and security here, and you are as repulsed by the Trump regime's attacks on democracy as are most of us Americans. Thank you, Robert. Robert Reich is one of my favorites. He's a genius. If you're not watching his stuff, you should be every day. He breaks it down in no bullshit terms, what's going on in this country and what has been going on, why we're here in this position. So if you're from out of the country and you're thinking about coming here, I love you. Most of us love you. Wish you were here. But for your safety and to make a statement, don't come here during Trump's regime. The people who voted for him should suffer the consequences of that. That means I get to suffer too, but I'm willing to take one for the team. Think about your own safety. We'll see you on the other side of this nightmare. Fuck on, live fearless.